Once again, thank you to everyone that's joined us. We will be starting in about 30 seconds or so. We'll just give it another moment for the people that are joining us from the waiting room. Okay, if the Health Match team is ready, I think we are ready to get started today. Welcome and thank you to everyone for joining us today to learn more about your decision letter from the BC College of Nurses and Midwives. This is an important milestone in your registration journey, and we look forward to guiding you through the implications and opportunities that lie ahead. My name is Tracy, and I am with the nurse recruitment team at Health Match BC. Within Canada, we recognize and honor the rich history, cultures, and traditions of the Indigenous people who called this land home before the arrival of settlers. We also acknowledge the harm caused by colonialism, including the residential school system and the continuing impacts of systemic discrimination. As part of our commitment to reconciliation, we are committed to listening, learning, and taking meaningful action to address these injustices. In recognition of this commitment, we begin every meeting with a territorial land acknowledgement. For myself, I am joining this webinar from Vancouver, and I respectfully acknowledge that I am on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam people. I am deeply grateful for the opportunity to live, work, and learn on these lands. I know that some of you might be working with our navigational team, while others will be working with our employment services team. So joining me today are Daria from the navigation team and Shannon from the employment services team here at Health Match BC. We also have Preet working on the technical side and Heather who will be answering some questions during the Q&A. Before we begin, there are a few important things to keep in mind. This webinar is specifically designed for nurses who have submitted all the required documentation to the BC College of Nurses and Midwives, which is commonly referred to as BCCNM, and who have either received or are about to receive their decision letter from BCCNM. If this doesn't apply to you, no need to worry. Just reach out to us through your Health Match BC account, and we will connect you with a webinar that aligns with your current stage in the registration and recruitment process. Also, in case you didn't notice, this session is being recorded. However, you will not appear on camera, so don't worry. Lastly, please hold your questions until the end. We have set aside time for a Q&A, and we will do our very best to answer as many questions as possible. We do have a lot to get through today, and we're excited to get started. So we are going to begin with an overview of Health Match BC and share how we support nurses throughout their recruitment journey. Next, we will walk you through the BCCNM decision letter, what it means, and the types of conditions you may receive. We will also give you an overview of the navigation, job search, immigration, and financial supports available through Health Match BC. And finally, we will answer your questions during the Q&A and share how you can contact us for further assistance, or if you have very specific questions about your own unique circumstances. We do value your input and we want to hear from you. So we will be using a program called Slido during this presentation to help us gather your feedback. When we ask a question, you can answer through Slido, and a QR code will appear on your screen. To participate, you just scan the QR code on your screen using the camera app on your phone, or if you're on a desktop, use your browser and go to slido.com and enter the event code displayed on your screen. We will let you know every time we're about to use Slido, so you will have plenty of time to join in. All responses are completely anonymous, so no personal information is collected or recorded. Shall we give it a try? Take out your phone and scan the QR code you see on the screen, or use your browser to open Slido and let us know, what country are you joining us from today? We will take a couple of minutes to let those answers roll in. So again, just take out your phone and scan the QR code you see there and let us know where you're joining us from today. So it looks like we have some people that are already here in Canada. We have people joining us from the UK, the Philippines, South Korea, Nepal, Japan. This is great. Thank you all for participating. We'll just give it a few more seconds because I see we still have a number of people typing. We have some people joining us from Ireland, from Turkey. This is fantastic. Thank you all so much. We've still got lots of answers rolling in, so we're just going to give it another 30 seconds or so. Just enough time for you to finish typing. Again, thank you to everyone who is participating. Your feedback really helps us ensure that we are providing you with the information you need and helps us improve our webinars going forward. We will have more Slido questions for you later, so keep your phones handy. But for now, I'm going to pass it over to Shannon to tell you all about Health Match BC.
Thanks, Tracy. So who is Health Match BC? Health Match BC is a free recruitment service for health professionals. We are part of the BC Health Careers Network and are funded by the Government of British Columbia. We have been working with BC health authorities for over 25 years to facilitate recruitment to more than 200 facilities across the province. Our primary role is to help reduce barriers for healthcare professionals interested in working in BC and to empower them to move their careers forward while actively supporting province-wide recruitment programs and initiatives. So what do we do? Health Match BC is here to guide and provide support for internationally educated nurses, also known as IENs, as they navigate the credentialing, registration, job search, and immigration processes to live and work as a nurse in BC. We provide navigational support as you go through the credentialing and registration process, job search support to help you identify the right community and employment opportunity to begin your career in BC, immigration support to inform you about the BC Provincial Nominee Program, and financial support on behalf of the Government of BC to help offset the cost of credentialing and registration processes. It is important to note that Health Match BC acts in an advisory capacity only. We do not make any decisions regarding credentialing, registration, employment, or immigration. So think of Health Match more like a compass. We do not build the path and we cannot walk the path for our candidates, but we are here to help you navigate the path and guide you so you will get to where you want to be. Now I'm going to hand it back to Tracy for another Slido question.
Thank you, Shannon. Before we move on with the rest of the webinar, let's do one more Slido question. So, have you already received your BCCNM decision letter? So if you can just let us know if you've received it or not, that would be awesome. If you joined us late and want to participate in the Slido poll, just scan the QR code you see on your screen with your phone's camera app, or open your desktop browser and visit slido.com and enter the event code you see on the screen. So it looks like the majority of you are waiting for your BCCNM decision letter, which is great because we've got lots of information for you. And it looks like there's a few of you that have already received it, so you may have questions about some of the terms that you're seeing. Again, thank you to everyone that has participated. We really do appreciate it. And I'm going to hand it over to Daria to talk about the BCCNM decision letters.
Thanks, Tracy. Hi, everybody. So once BCCNM has received all your documents, including your completed Inspire application package, they will review your application and provide you with a registration decision letter. Your decision letter will indicate if any coursework needs to be completed and if there are any other requirements you must complete before you can be approved for registration with BCCNM. These conditions might include additional education, which could be one or more individual courses, some of which might be available online. Additional education could also be a re-entry program. Re-entry programs must be completed through a BCCNM approved educational institution in Canada. It could be clinical practice hours. This supervised clinical practice must be completed in BC. Or 250 hours of transitional practice experience, which is also known as a TPE, and of course, a national licensing exam if you have not successfully written it yet. Your decision letter will clearly outline what requirements you need to complete. Therefore, it is very important to read it carefully so that you will know exactly what you need to do. If you still have some questions about your BCCNM decision letter, please reach out to your Health Match BC navigator or consultant, and they would be happy to help you. So let's take a closer look at some of the conditions you might find in your decision letter. Depending on your individual circumstances, you may need to complete extra coursework or education. The individual courses you may need to take will focus on different nursing skills, such as assessment, clinical decision-making, medication administration, reporting, and documentation. Which specific courses you're required to complete will be outlined in your decision letter, along with the post-secondary institutions you're required to take them from. One course that is typically requested of internationally educated nurses focuses on professional nursing in Canada. This course is offered online and it is self-paced, meaning you can complete it at your own speed within a given time frame. Instead of individual coursework, you may also be asked to complete a BCCNM recognized reentry program for RNs or practical nursing education program for LPNs. These programs are designed to help nurses who have been trained outside of Canada to meet the requirements to practice in BC. These programs renew and enhance nursing knowledge and skills. A reentry or practical nursing education program typically includes theoretical coursework and clinical placements, which will need to be completed in Canada. If you are a registered psychiatric nurse, you may be referred to a Psychiatric Nursing Refresher Certificate program. This refresher program focuses on current psychiatric nursing practices, professional standards, and mental health care approaches in Canada. The program includes both online coursework and practical components, with hands-on training in the psychiatric nursing setting within British Columbia. Please note, BCCNM reviews each application on a case-by-case basis. Therefore, we encourage you to wait for your BCCNM decision letter to be issued before deciding to enroll for any coursework. If any additional education is required, please ensure that your school sends confirmation of your course completion to BCCNM directly at ienapplications@bccnm.ca once you have completed your education. And then, in addition to education, you may also be asked to complete either a consolidated clinical or transitional practice experience. Let's begin by taking a look at a consolidated clinical. I'm now going to pass it over to Shannon to chat a little bit more about it.
Awesome. Thanks, Daria. So yeah, we're going to cover consolidated clinicals first. Consolidated clinicals are designed to demonstrate entry-level RN or LPN knowledge, skill, and competencies under the guidance of a preceptor. You will be placed in an acute medical or surgical unit in a BC Lower Mainland hospital, including facilities within Vancouver Coastal Health, Fraser Health, and Providence Health. You will be paired with the same nurse for the entire duration of your clinical placement. Your shifts will mirror your preceptor's schedule and will include evenings, weekends, and holidays. After 250 hours, which is about 6 to 8 weeks, your practice will be evaluated by your preceptor. And if you are successful, your consolidated clinical will be considered complete. To apply for this course, you will need to meet some prerequisites first. For example, you will have to show proof of English language proficiency, proof of a Canadian CPR level C, and proof of various immunizations. We encourage you to contact the post-secondary institution directly to review the full list of prerequisites. If you have been referred by BCCNM to complete this course and have questions, please contact the school or your Health Match BC consultant. Once you have started your clinical placement, let us know so we can help you connect to BC health employers and begin exploring job opportunities. Now, let's talk about another type of requirement you might see on your decision letter. If you are not required to complete a consolidated clinical, you may be required to complete the Transitional Practice Experience, or TPE, which is completed during your first 250 hours of work as a nurse in BC. TPE acts as an evaluation period, which allows both BCCNM and your employer to assess your current practice and ensure that you can practice safely. Your Health Match BC Employment Services Consultant will be able to support you in finding employment opportunities that will support your TPE requirement. But there are a few things worth mentioning. First, you will have 12 months or 1 year to complete your TPE requirement after you activate your provisional registration with BCCNM. You must successfully complete your TPE requirement to maintain your registration with BCCNM. Your TPE must be completed during your first 250 hours of working as a nurse in British Columbia. Your employer must complete the TPE evaluation form after you have completed your 250 hours of practice. You will be paid at your full nursing salary during this time that you are completing the TPE and being evaluated. So to start your TPE, you will first need to find employment. And second, contact BCCNM and let them know that you've started your TPE and provide your employment details. Once you have successfully completed your TPE, your employer will complete the evaluation form from BCCNM, and BCCNM will remove this condition from your registration. So the next condition you might find on your license is national exams. So I'm going to hand it over to Daria, who's going to start sharing information about those.
Thank you, Shannon. Throughout Canada, including in BC, there is a national licensing exam for each of the nursing designations. Today, we will focus on the NCLEX RN for registered nurses, REXPN for licensed practical nurses, and RPNCE for registered psychiatric nurses. So let's begin with the NCLEX. The NCLEX RN, which stands for National Council Licensure Examination for Registered Nurses, is a standardized test. Registered nurses in Canada must pass this test to obtain their nursing license and practice legally. If you are seeking registration with the BC College of Nurses and Midwives, you must write and pass the NCLEX. The exam is designed to assess your knowledge and abilities essential for safe and effective nursing practice. Licensed practical nurses must pass a similar exam. The regulatory exam practical nurse, also known as the REXPN, is a standardized test designed to assess whether candidates have the necessary knowledge, skills, and judgment to practice safely as a licensed practical nurse in Canada. LPNs must pass the REXPN to obtain their full nursing license and practice legally. Both the NCLEX and the REXPN use a computerized adaptive test format, meaning the difficulty of the questions adjust based on the performance as you progress through the test. The number of questions ranges from 85 to 150 during the allotted 5 hours testing period. The exam covers a wide range of nursing concepts, from basic patient care to complex clinical scenarios. The NCLEX and the REXPN test your knowledge, skills, and judgment required to provide safe patient care. They do not test your knowledge of healthcare systems, history, or government policies and laws. So now let's talk about where and when you can write the REX or the NCLEX. Pearson VUE is the organization responsible for administering these exams, and they offer a network of authorized testing centers where candidates can take the exam. Testing centers are located across Canada and internationally. You can see the full list on the Pearson VUE website. As you move through the registration process, BCCNM will notify you when you are eligible to take the NCLEX and will email you with the instructions on how to register for the exam through Pearson VUE. There is no limit to how many times you can attempt the NCLEX RN, but if you obtain provisional registration with the BCCNM prior to writing the exam, you are permitted a maximum of 2 attempts to write and pass the exam before your provisional registration is withdrawn.
Excellent. I'll jump in here now to talk about an additional exam. So the next exam we'll review is the Registered Psychiatric Nurses of Canada examination, which is also known as the RPNCE, and is mandatory for candidates who are seeking registration as a registered psychiatric nurse. It is important to note that within Canada, British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba are the only provinces that regulate psychiatric nursing. The RPNCE assesses knowledge and skills specific to the psychiatric and mental health nursing. It is a 4-hour multiple-choice computer-based exam that consists of 200 questions that will test your understanding of entry-level competencies for registered psychiatric nurses. Where do you write the RPNCE? The RPNCE is administered by a testing organization, Mizure Learning, and offered over a 5-day period in January, May, and October in the provinces of British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. You will be notified by the BC College of Nurses and Midwives when you are eligible to write this exam. If you obtain provisional registration with the BCCNM prior to writing the RPNCE, you will have 2 attempts to write your licensing exam before your provisional registration is withdrawn. You can attempt the RPNCE a maximum of 3 times. If you are not successful on your 3rd attempt, you will need to complete an approved psychiatric nurse refresher program before any further attempts to write the exam. If you have already successfully written either the NCLEX RN, the RPNCE, or the REXPEN, you will not have to write it again as part of your BCCNM registration process. When preparing to write any of the national nursing exams, remember, it's important to familiarize yourself with the test format, content areas, and test-taking strategies. It is crucial to understand the format of the exam you are taking and familiarize yourself with the types of questions you can expect, such as multiple choice or scenario-based questions. Take time to review the content areas covered in the exam and utilize practice exams and sample questions to get accustomed with the exam format and timing. This will help build your confidence and familiarity with the material. Effective time management is key during the exam. Pace yourself to ensure you have enough time to answer all the questions and try not to get stuck on one question for too long. Focus on understanding core nursing principles and concepts rather than memorizing every detail. This will help you apply your knowledge more effectively during the exam. And lastly, try and manage your test anxiety by staying calm and confident in your preparation and abilities. For additional study resources, we encourage you to visit the BCCNM licensing exam web pages. Now I'm going to pass it back to Tracy for another Slido question.
Thank you so much, Shannon. We know that we've given you a lot of information today, and we'd love to get your feedback on it. So based on what we've presented so far today, what information did you find the most useful or even the most interesting? Was it the decision letter overview, the information about additional education, the information about the clinical practice hours and transitional practice experience, or maybe it was about the licensing exams? So for anyone that joined us late, once again, just use the camera app on your phone and scan the QR code you see there. Or if you are on a desktop, go to slido.com and put in the number you see. We'll just give it another 30 seconds or so for the people that are still participating. Also, if we switch out of this slide while you're still participating, your answer will still be logged, so don't worry. And again, for the people that joined late, we aren't collecting any identifying information, so this is completely anonymous. Okay, we just have a few last people participating, so I am going to now pass it back to Daria, and your information will still record. So Daria, over to you.
Thanks, Tracy. So let's take a look at bursaries. Through HealthMatch BC, the government of BC provides financial support to IENs registering with BCCNM. They offer bursaries in the form of to help cover the costs of becoming licensed in British Columbia. On this chart, you can see a brief overview of the financial supports that are available. So who is eligible for the IEN bursary? Applicants applying to the IEN bursary program must commit to a return of service agreement with the government of BC and meet the following criteria. BC must be the only province that the applicant has applied for registration as a nurse. Those already licensed in another Canadian province or territory are not eligible. Applicants will need to have a Canadian social insurance number and a Canadian bank account to receive any funds. This means that reimbursement can only occur once you have relocated to BC. It should also be noted that your BCCNM decision letter is an important document, and we encourage you to hang on to it as you may be asked for it as part of the application process for the IEN bursary program. For more details about eligibility for IEN bursaries, please visit nursingjobsbc.ca or reach out to your navigator. The Return of Service Agreement, or ROS for short, is an agreement between you and the government of BC in exchange for receiving financial support. By signing an ROS, you're committing to complete 1 year of full-time or 2 years of part-time work with a publicly funded health employer of your choice within British Columbia, once you're registered with the BCCNM. When an internationally educated nurse signs a return of service agreement, they will be able to apply to the IEN bursary program for reimbursement to help offset some of the costs of the credentialing and registration process. We know that the registration process can be overwhelming, so our navigation team is here to help. Navigators like myself, we will work with you to answer any questions you might have about the licensing process, provide up-to-date information and guidance, connect you to the people and services you need to be connected with, provide additional information and resources regarding financial supports available to the IENs, and of course, provide encouragement and support as you go through this process to work as a nurse in BC. Anytime you have any questions, please log into your HealthMatch BC account and send us a message. One of our navigators will be in touch to assist you. I'm now going to pass it back to Shannon to tell you all about other supports available from HealthMatch BC.
Thanks, Daria. HealthMatch BC provides a wide range of services and supports throughout your recruitment journey. In addition to navigational and financial assistance, we offer personalized job search support to help you find the right job in the community that suits you. Once you've received your decision letter, you will be introduced to your dedicated recruitment consultant who will guide you through the provisions outlined in your decision letter. Once eligible for BCCNM registration, your recruitment consultant will work with you to identify healthcare facilities and communities that align with both your personal and professional goals. We understand that finding the right opportunity goes beyond just a job. It's about balancing career, lifestyle, and family needs. Our team considers factors like location, work-life balance, and community to help you find a position that meets your expectations. We will also connect you with public health employers and provide tailored guidance throughout the job search process. With ongoing feedback and support, we are dedicated to helping you secure a position that aligns with your career goals, and we are here to assist you every step of the way. We also have a dedicated immigration team that will support you with your work permit and permanent residency applications through the BC Provincial Nominee Program, which we refer to as BCPNP. Once you are eligible to practice as a nurse with BCCNM and have received a formal job offer of employment from a BC health employer, our immigration will be here to help you. Now I'm going to pass it back to Tracy for another Slido question.
Thank you, Shannon. Before moving on to the question and answer part of today's webinar, I would like to ask you a few more Slido questions. So based on the information that we shared today, what supports from HealthMatch BC are you most interested in? Is it the immigration services, the bursary support, the navigation support, the employment support, or maybe it's all of the above? Again, if you joined us late, please scan the QR code that you see on the screen or use your desktop to go to slido.com and put in the code you see there. Okay, it looks like the numbers are still moving around a bit, but thank you very much. It looks like the majority of you by far are interested in all of the support, so that is great to hear. We are going to move on and do one last Slido question. What was your favorite part of today's webinar? So again, just scan the QR code that you see there with the camera app on your phone. This one you have to type in. Let us know which part of the webinar you enjoyed the most. If you're on a desktop, you can go to slido.com and put in the event code that you see in front of you. Okay, so for a lot of people, it was everything. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. For some of you, it was the TPE information. For others, it was the decision letter. For some of you, it was the supports. This question is really important to us because it really helps us to figure out if we need to sort of, expand on some of the points that we're making or, maybe cut back on stuff, add things. So again, thank you so much to everyone that's participating in this poll. We really do appreciate it. And also want to say how much we appreciate all the support that we've gotten through these polls to date. We've had great participation and we really, we love to see that and we really appreciate it. We also now know that at least 70 of you are paying attention to us and have been listening to what we've been saying. So again, thank you very, very much. For those of you that are still typing, we will still be able to record your answers, but we are going to move on to the next slide because I know we've given you a lot of information today. And that's exactly why we have navigators and employment consultants here to support you every step of the way. On behalf of our entire team, before we get to the Q&A, I do want to thank you for taking the time to learn about the BCC&M decision letters and the supports available through Health Match BC. We are now going to move on and address the questions that you submitted when you registered for this webinar. So we will address those questions live, but you are also welcome to use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen to ask any additional questions that you might have. So we've kind of taken the questions that were pre-submitted and put them into categories so that we're not jumping around too much. So we're going to start with some questions that we were asked about the BCC&M processing timelines. And Daria, I'm going to tap you to answer these if you don't mind. I have about 3 or 4 questions for you. So, Daria, what is the timeline to receive a decision letter from BCC&M once they receive the performance report from Inspire Global Assessments?
Yeah, that's a good one. So if current estimated timeline for BCC&M decision letters is around 16 to 20 weeks after the Inspire performance report has been sent to BCC&M for final review. But of course, it's important to note that processing times do vary. It's based on the complexity of your application and the current volumes of applications. So with that being said, the BCC&M is quite good at emailing applicants with an approximate decision letter processing time. So be sure to review your emails, keep an eye out on your inbox, as it should mention the length of the time that it will take to receive your decision letter.
That's great. The next question, which is one we actually hear a lot, is this is from someone who already passed their NCLEX RN exam, and they want to know if it will speed up the process of getting a license or getting registered here in BC.
Yeah, well, passing NCLEX is a great step. I know it's a big exam, so if you've already passed it, it's a good hurdle that you have overcome. Once you have passed the NCLEX, you do not have to take it again, but it does not allow you to bypass any other application steps and likely won't speed up your process. However, when you are submitting your documents to BCC&M, you can inform them that you have already passed the NCLEX exam, and they will remove that condition from your licensing process, so you don't have to take it again.
Thank you. The next one, it's kind of a broad question. What documentation should be submitted to BCC&M?
Oh, it is a very general question. Let's say for most internationally educated nurses, you will need to begin with applications to Inspire Global Assessments and BCC&M. But if you are unsure which pathway you should follow or where to start the process, please reach out to your navigator or consultant via your Health Match BC account. However, for BCC&M directly, all IENs will need to submit an application for practicing registration for whichever designation you're looking to achieve, and a detailed CV as part of that application. Once BCC&M Registration Services team processes your application, they will be in touch with you directly, requesting any additional required documentation, which may include verification of nursing employment, or verification of nursing registration, but please await that email from their team directly to request those documentation.
One more question for you, Daria. This is from someone who received an email from BCC&M and that they qualify to practice as a practicing RN. They want to know what's next.
Oh, that's an exciting one. Congratulations. That's a big step for sure. Your next step is job search. So reach out to your Health Match BC consultant so you can be connected or reconnected to our employment services team, and they can assist you in navigating the job search process and get you connected to the health employers here in BC.
I'll give you a break now, Daria, and I am going to ask Shannon some questions about TPE. So Shannon, what happens when you are granted a provisional RN license and are asked to complete a 250-hour TPE? And how do you start a TPE?
Yes, that's a great question. So when you're granted your provisional license, yes, you will be given that TPE. That means you, in your first 250 hours as a nurse in British Columbia, you will be working, those 250 hours will be assessed under the transitional practice experience. It means your employer will then, at the end of those hours, fill out a document and send it to BCCNM, verifying that you are practicing to safe nursing standards that we expect in BC and Canada as a whole. Now, the most important part of that question is, how do you start your TPE? So the most important part of that is you need to find a job. So you will need to work with your Health Match BC recruitment consultant, like myself, and we'll work with you to find an appropriate job. Again, in a community, in a hospital setting that you are comfortable with, that will support the TPE. So we work with you to get that job, to meet that requirement, so that your employer can send those documents to BCCNM to have them removed from your license. So the biggest part of all of that is, or the first step is finding a job. And that's what we're here to do on the employment side of the team here, is to help you find the roles that you will be able to complete that requirement.
Okay, and this is a related question. Do employers support or hire applicants that have to complete a TPE?
Yes, they do. All of our healthcare employers are very familiar with the TPE requirement. It's been around for a little while now, and so they kind of have learned to expect it from certain applicants. And we also make them aware, and when we send your referral on your behalf, that a TPE is required. So they will ensure that they are showcasing you roles that they can help you fulfill that TPE as well. So yes, our healthcare employers are very aware of it. They're very open with us if they, don't have the capacity to take TPE in certain units. But we don't hear that very often. So yeah, healthcare employers don't really bat an eye at it anymore. They're so familiar with it. So, and they're more than happy to support candidates completing that requirement on their license.
Great. Just have one more question for you then on TPE. Someone wants to know if they'll be required to complete a consolidated clinical and a TPE.
No, never both. That's the short answer. Nope, never both. Typically, you're asked to complete one or the other. I've never seen, and I don't know if Daria's ever seen, BCCNM ask a candidate to complete both. You're usually asked to complete one. If you complete the consolidated clinical, you won't get a TPE. If you're not asked to complete a consolidated clinical before receiving your provisional license, you might expect to see it on your provisional license. There are a few situations where you might not be asked to see either or required to complete either or, but prepare yourself that you might be required to complete at least one of those. Yeah, so typically you won't be asked to complete both. It's typically one or the other.
Thank you so much. I've got some questions for Daria now around additional education requirements. So, Daria, what types of remedial education will there be? What is the shortest and longest course duration? That's a hard question.
Oh, you're giving me all the general ones. Of course, each applicant will have their own unique personalized pathways. So please wait for your BCCNM decision letter to outline what the process is going to look like for you. But what it may include, of course, we were talking about one or more individual courses that might specifically focus on a nursing competency, for example, medication administration and assessment and things like that. It could also include the consolidated clinical or the TPE, as Shannon mentioned, or a reentry program. So a single course may take up to 12 weeks to complete, whereas a reentry to practice program could approximately take 1 to 2 years, depending on the program you decide to go with. But again, of course, it's all so case specific that once you receive your decision letter, you can let your Health Match BC consultant or navigator know, and we can talk about your specific timeline in a lot more detail.
Great. I have another question for you, but I think this one might be impossible for you to answer. Can you tell me how many additional courses will I be required to take?
I wish. I wish we could make those decisions. No, unfortunately, we are not able to determine your educational requirements. As BCCNM again processes all applications on a case-by-case basis. Their decisions are very applicant unique and based on the entirety of an applicant's background. So we are talking education, experience, professional development, and competency assessment performance. So really they take a look at the entirety of somebody's professional background. Yeah, unfortunately not up to them, up to us.
I have an easier one for you. Someone's asked if they must complete a reentry program, how long will it take?
Yeah, so a reentry program will take approximately 1 to 2 years to complete. The different programs have different durations and prerequisites. So if BCCNM does refer you to a reentry program, they will include a list of BCCNM recognized programs on your decision letter. So you can take a look and research the programs and decide which one works best for you in terms of durations, arrangements, prerequisites, and go from there.
Okay, so someone's asked if they can work as a nurse while they complete a reentry program.
So unfortunately, you cannot practice as a nurse until you have completed your requirements on the BCCNM registration decision letter. But if you do have a valid work permit or permanent residency or citizenship in Canada, or you are legally allowed to work in Canada, you can definitely find a job in a non-nursing role, non-licensed, while you're completing a re-entry program.
Fantastic. So another question that's been asked is, my decision letter says I have been granted provisional registration. Is this the same as full or practicing registration?
Provisional and full practicing registration are definitely not the same thing. But provisional registration does allow you to practice as a nurse for 1 year. Within that 1 year, you must meet the specific conditions set by the BCCNM, which could include things like passing your licensing exam or completing the transitional practice experience before gaining that full registration. Again, the conditions of your provisional registration will be outlined in the BCCNM communication that you have received or in the letter, because it is, again, very applicant specific. I keep saying it, but this process and the BCCNM decisions are very, very applicant specific.
Okay, another question on additional education. Someone has asked if they can choose what school they take their courses from.
Yeah, so individual courses will be outlined in your BCCNM decision letter, along with the educational institutions that they can be taken at. For some courses, it's only one option. For some, there might be a few options that you can choose from. Again, the BCCNM decision letter will give you even links to those specific courses, so it makes it a little bit easier for you to find out more and register for the required coursework.
I also have some questions for you about the NCLEX, Daria.
Okay.
So we've had someone ask if there's any study material to prepare for the NCLEX exam.
They definitely are. There are some resources, exam previews, informational and study guides, sample questions available on the Pearson VUE website and on the BCCNM website. So definitely explore them to learn more about the exam format, the scope. I know we quickly touched on that, but there's a lot more detailed information on those websites. Alternatively, if you can't locate those websites, just reach out quickly to your Health Match BC navigator, and we can send you some links to get you started.
Great. We've also had someone ask, what happens if they fail the final registration exam, such as the NCLEX or the RexPen? Can they retake it?
Yeah, this is one of those things we don't want to talk about it, but just in case. So yes, if you failed the licensing exam, such as NCLEX, you can retake it, but you must wait the 45 days between the first attempt and the second attempt to be eligible to complete the retake. There's no limit on how many times you can take the exam in BC. However, the individuals that are currently on provisional registration and practicing on provisional registration, you can continue practicing on that registration if you failed the exam after the first attempt. But if you fail the exam twice, so after the second fail attempt, your provisional registration will be withdrawn. You're not going to be sent back in the process to restart this process, but you will be stopped from practicing until you successfully take and pass the licensing exam. Once you do that, your provisional registration will reactivate and you can go back to the practice. So again, this is why we encourage everybody to prepare. Again, we don't want to talk about it, but this is one of those things to keep in mind, definitely, especially if you are actively practicing on a provisional registration.
Great. I believe this next question we covered during the presentation, but I'll ask the question anyway. This is from someone who's already written and passed their final registration exam. So they want to know if they need to rewrite the NCLEX exam in Canada.
Short answer, no. If you've passed the NCLEX before, either inside or outside of Canada, you will not need to write it again.
Okay, this is a similar question to that. So
Okay.
Is the NCLEX also required for registered nurses from the UK, Australia, and New Zealand?
Yes, NCLEX is required by BCCNM for all nurses to become registered to work in BC. But again, if you've already passed it as part of your licensing process back home, I know Australia does a lot of NCLEXs, then you don't have to take it again.
Great. One more question on NCLEX. Someone has asked, will they still receive a provisional license if they've already passed the NCLEX RN?
Cool. I keep saying it, but it's really depending on the applicant's pathway, and each conditions are going to be unique. However, yes, there might be cases where applicants who have already passed NCLEX are still granted provisional license. This would be the case if there are any additional conditions that BCCNM has asked them to complete. For example, the transitional practice experience, or maybe some coursework, right? In other cases, if there are no additional conditions, applicants are just granted fully practicing RN licensure. So ultimately, again, your pathway will be determined by the BCCNM team and will be outlined, in your decision letter.
Thank you so much. I'll give you a break now and I'll ask Shannon a couple of questions about recruitment. So Shannon, someone's asked, how do they get a job with a government-funded employer to complete their return of service, how can they get registered faster? Oh, that's a two-parter.
That's a two-parter. Well, if you're looking for a job, you're in the right place. We are here to help you do that. Once you've navigated the licensing process with my lovely coworker Daria, you will come over to the employment services team and work with individuals like myself, where we will work with you, whether that be a meeting over Zoom or Teams to talk about your preferences. It can also be done over email if, meeting with us is not conducive to your schedule. And we get your preferences and we try and match you with employers that have current availabilities in areas of your interest in communities that are going to work for you. So working with us, we then refer you over to the health authorities, and then you will enter into the recruitment processes of those employers. And then we kind of keep a close eye on how that's going. We check in on you. We make sure if you need support from us, anything like that. And so you're in the right place if you have a Health Match BC account, which if you're in this webinar, you should have one. And if you don't, please visit our website and start one to be connected with us to help you find a job in British Columbia. How do you get registered faster? Start the registration process. That's basically it. We wish, trust me, I think all of us on this call wish we had more power to make the process move faster. But start the process as soon as you can. Work with our navigation team. Stay in contact with us because if things start to go sideways, we are not mind readers. So we are here to help you every step of the way. So let us know if you're encountering issues. Let us know if you have questions or concerns. And if we don't have the answer in-house, we will point you in the right direction of who you need to go talk to get those answers. So yeah, being here is kind of the first step in that process. So you're in the right spot.
One more question. We'll give the last question to you, Shannon.
Cool.
Can Health Match BC support me in job search while waiting for my license from BCCNM?
100% yes. Yes, while we are waiting for that decision letter, we can move you through to starting the job search process, because sometimes the job search process does involve us providing you with resources to do a little bit more research. We do, when we refer you out, we like to have a bit of a strategic approach of picking a few areas or healthcare employers to start with. So sometimes candidates come to us and they're like, I don't even know where to start. This is kind of what I'm looking for in a community. And so we'll send you a few more resources on that community or health region so you can do your homework, so you can really make sure it's a good fit before we refer you over. Because the last thing we want is for you to be getting off of a plane in one of our lovely BC communities and saying, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I anticipated. So we really, really try and work with you. Sometimes it's a quick referral. Sometimes we got to do a little bit more legwork so that we know exactly where you want to end up. So yeah, I hope that answers that question. So while we're waiting for that license, there's other work that we can be doing. And sometimes we can refer you a little bit earlier as well and just let the healthcare employers know that we're still waiting on that license, but sometimes they're open to that as well.
Thank you so much, Shannon, and thank you, Daria. And of course, thank you, Heather, who's diligently working in the background, answering some of those questions in the Q&A. And thank you to Preet as well. I'm sorry if we weren't able to get to your questions, but please go ahead and reach out to your consultant or your navigator, and they'd be happy to answer any questions we weren't able to get to. It has been great speaking with you and answering some of your questions today. We are just over time, so I apologize, but some of the main takeaways we would like to leave you with today are: 1, please review all the details and conditions on your BCCNM decision letter and save a hard copy for future reference. You will need it. 2, Make sure you understand all the conditions and what you need to do to meet them. 3, also, please let BCCNM know when you meet each of the conditions on your provisional license. And 4, notify your Health Match BC navigator or employment consultant so that they can work with you on the next steps in your journey. As I said, if you have any additional questions, please reach out to us through your Health Match BC account, and we would be happy to assist you. Thank you for listening. Also, reach out to your consultant or navigator. We have a whole series of webinars that can help you at every step of the journey, and make sure that we know where you're at so we can refer you to the right one. Thank you for joining us today for us, or this evening for some of you. Enjoy the rest of your day. It was wonderful seeing you. Bye for now.